Bolivian government opposition parties. The 2019 Bolivian political crisis occurred on the 10th of November, 2019. After 21 days of civil protests following the disputed 2019 Bolivian general election and the release of a report from the Organization of American States, which alleged irregularities in the electoral process. Trade unions, the military and the police of Bolivia asked President Evo Morales to resign. He complied, accompanied by other resignations by high-level politicians throughout the day, some citing fears for the safety of their families. The government of Mexico offered political asylum to Morales the following day, which Morales accepted a day afterwards. The second vice president of the Senate, opposition Senator Janine Áñez, assumed the role of president on the 12th of November, being the next in line for the presidency after a vacuum had been left following a string of resignations. This was not without controversy, as her initial appointment was made during a brief legislative session that lacked quorum, due to a boycott by Morales's party, Movement for Socialism. Bolivia's Plurinational Constitutional Tribunal then confirmed Áñez's assumption of the presidency as legitimate, and the ruling party returned most members to both chambers, with some assuming key positions such as leader of the Senate. They also committed to working with the interim government towards new elections. Morales called for the Bolivian people to reject the leadership of Áñez. He and his supporters argued that the event was a coup d'état. International politicians, scholars and journalists were divided between describing the event as a coup or popular uprising. The Bolivian Congress, with the majority being members of Morales' Mas Party, unanimously approved a bill on the 23rd of November 2019 that annulled the results of the 20th of October election, allowed for new elections and prevented Evo Morales from participating in the new elections. The bill was signed into law the next day by President Áñez. On the 4th of December 2019, the OAS released its final report related to the 20th of October election, detailing what they called deliberate and malicious tactics to rig that election in favor of President Evo Morales. Two subsequent independent non-peer-reviewed analyses of election data from different sources disagreed with the statistical analysis of election data presented by the OAS, with CEPR accusing OAS of doing a basic coding error, resulting in what appeared to be inexplicable changes in trend. OAS nonetheless defended their findings. In September 2020, Human Rights Watch released a report saying that the interim government was abusing the justice system to wage a politically motivated witch hunt against former President Evo Morales and his allies. On the 20th of October 2019, the first round of voting for all government positions was held. After the polls closed, the Supreme Electoral Tribunal began to release the preliminary results of the presidential election. At 7:40 p.m., when 83.8% of the votes had been counted, the preliminary count stopped. The tribunal's president, Maria Eugenia Choque, said that the preliminary count had stopped because the official results had begun to be released. At the time that the preliminary count was stopped, Morales led with 45.3%, and his primary opponent, Carlos Mesa, had 38.2%. Less than a 10-point lead would have resulted in another round of runoff voting. At 9:25 p.m., President Morales declared himself the winner, stating that rural areas would guarantee his victory, although uncounted votes in rural areas were expected to go his way. One body observing the election, the Organization of American States, stated that even if Morales did win outright, his lead beyond the 10-point threshold would be so negligible as to warrant a runoff anyway. The OAS expressed concern about the day-long gap in results reporting. After 24 hours, the updates resumed, but with a surge for Morales at the first update. On the 21st of October, the Plurinational Electoral Organ reported a still incomplete count, suggesting that with only 95.3% of verified votes, Morales had too large of a margin above 10 points to overcome, avoiding a second runoff round, and so Morales would remain in power for a fourth term. Based on this result, along with reported irregularities in the two-term presidential limit that the Bolivian Constitutional Tribunal had nullified. The Bolivian opposition and protesters, as well as some foreign governments and international observers, called for an audit of the process and results, to which Morales agreed. The OAS audit of the election began on the 31st of October and was observed by Spain, Mexico, and Paraguay. By the 24th of October, Morales began describing the actions taken against him as a coup. On the 25th of October, when the results were officially announced with Morales as the winner, various countries in Latin America, as well as the United States and European Union, had called for the second round to go ahead regardless. On the 31st of October, 2 Det.